Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. Brought to you by Blue Sky Business Consulting. We discuss 5 questions in about 15 minutes. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast. We always are excited to bring on a new guest every week, and today this is Lilith Christiansen, and she is from Arlington, Virginia. And Lilith is the founder and CEO of HumanGenuity. So Lilith, first of all, thank you for being on the podcast with me today. And second, we got to know, what is HumanGenuity and what are you guys working on that's so awesome?
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. Really appreciate you having me on today. At HumanGenuity, we focus on the human side of businesses, in particular, working with growth stage companies that have reached a point where they've found that what's worked in the past is no longer working. Decisions are taking longer, products or processes are being reworked constantly, and there's a need to just take a step back and find out what's the source of the friction. So we come in, diagnose that very quickly, and then set them on a path towards clarity so that they can regain growth and really start focusing on business again.
I'm so happy that you're tackling that because it happens frequently. I see it in what I do. You obviously see it in what you do. As businesses start to grow and they get bigger and bigger, there's more and more problems, as they might say. You use the word friction, which I thought was a great word, because that's what happens. And so it's really good to know that you're tackling some of those things and helping these business owners and leaders to continue to grow, have successful businesses, and also help the people thrive in that community, that the team, the department, the division, the whole company, whatever it might be. So great work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it's going to lead very well into our very first question then. How can leaders create a psychologically safe environment for their teams?
Mhm. Well, first, just to kind of iterate the importance of psychological safety, like, I do believe that that's absolutely critical in a thriving culture for an organization. And that is really a precursor to that organization being successful, right? Serving its customers and having the business results that they want. When it comes to how leaders can really influence that, I think the primary piece is behavior and consistent behavior on their part that encourages discussion, dissent, even so that people can bring new ideas to the table or alternative ways of thinking. One thing in particular that I think a leader can do is when they are in discussion with their teams is to actually actively invite dissent before the decision is made. And if there hasn't been a lot of dissent, then maybe even say, okay, team, let's take a step back. What are we missing? Like, ask those probing questions to encourage team members to really dig deep and think from a couple different perspectives so that they're bringing all of those ideas to the table. And then being sure that they are sharing context, when they make a decision or when they're sharing information. I think that why piece is super important for the teams
Yes.
to be
Yes.
able to understand. It doesn't mean, everybody isn't always going to like every decision, but if you provide the context to it, I think that goes a long way to building that understanding and ultimately acceptance and kind of that ability to follow the decision. And then I think being consistent around following decision rights and accountability, that's kind of a structural element that I think supports psychological safety when you document out who's responsible for what decision and then you hold people accountable in a consistent way. When that behavior starts to falter, that's when people start to question, well, is it really safe for me to speak up, or are you seeing a difference between what is said in terms of decision making or what we're going to support as far as a way forward, but then behaviors that are working opposite to that? That's what starts to really break down that trust and psychological safety.
I really like those answers. I like that you talked about asking really good questions, and I especially liked the idea of the invitation to dissent,
Mhm.
because you're right. And what I have learned in the meetings that I've sat in over the years is that more than likely There's one person that has a different idea. They may not even completely disagree. They just have a slightly different idea, or there may be out and out dissent. But I know I've sat in meetings where I was the chair and I've literally said to the group, if you have a different point of view, please share it. Because more than likely, if we're dealing with something with the public or our customers or something like that, if you're thinking it, there's probably a group of that customer base that is also thinking it. And we have to have that perspective and be able to think about it. We may come to the exact same conclusion, but we at least think about it. We talk about it and see if it warrants a rethink, because it's so important that that small group of 10, 15 people in a room, or 5 people, or whatever it is, they may represent a larger demographic that has to be represented in some way. So great comments. I love that. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
Well, next question, and this is has become one of my favorite questions for this season. When you think of all the people that have influenced you for good in your life, and you think of maybe one person, what is
mhm.
one word that you would use to describe that person?
So I thought about this one for a bit and decided for this particular person, I think the best word is motivating. That this was someone when I was actually going through the process of looking for my first job after college. And the interview process, you meet with lots of different companies, and I was pursuing two different paths, possibly law or business. And this was one individual that I met with. She was a vice president in a boutique consulting firm. And just that conversation with her and being able to see how much impact she had had for clients, for the company that she worked with, and where she was in her life, it was just something that it really resonated with me. And I thought, I can do that too. I kind of did the math in my head around how long she'd been there and how old she was. And it was just so exciting and motivating to know that someone right out of college could be given a lot of opportunity, that if you are doing the hard work and you're analyzing the information and communicating in the right ways, like there truly is a meritocracy in this particular firm, and that ability to learn from others and grow and get promoted and become successful early on was something that was really exciting for me. And it is where I ended up working, and she became the best mentor as well.
Oh, that's such a great story. Thank you for sharing it.
Mhm.
It's always comforting to me to hear when people are inspiring and motivating, to use your word. And I get the sense, and you can clarify or correct here, I get the sense that it wasn't even so much what she said as just what she did. Is that accurate? Or
Yeah, that's right, Sean. Being able to see the actions that she had taken throughout her career in a very relatively short period of time, honestly, being able to see the results of that is what really encouraged me to pursue that path.
Oh, I like that. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. All right, question number 3. Let's talk a little bit about growth mindset. How can leaders foster and nurture a growth mindset? And that could apply either to themselves or to how to instill that in their team. But let's talk about growth mindset.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I may be somewhat slighted, what's the word, tainted maybe, because I have a teenage daughter, and as I've tried to help her think differently, right, as she goes through the trials and tribulations of competitive soccer and getting into college and all those life milestones. If I said growth mindset to her, like the eye roll. That said, I absolutely believe it is a critical foundation for really personal success. So, whether you're the leader or to instill that within a team. So, the approach that I take is really one of encouraging curiosity. So, rather than necessarily focusing in on kind of the title or the nomenclature of growth mindset, it's for me around encouraging approaching situations with curiosity and what can I learn from this situation. And sometimes it's almost less focused on what's the outcome of a particular experience as much as learning what comes from that experience. Because I think that's where the real growth comes from, is when things don't go as expected. What can you take from that? And then how do you adjust for either the next time or to continue to work that particular situation or experience to drive it in a way that gets you closer to the outcome that you were looking for? So I think being curious really in all situations when you meet someone new, when you're tackling a challenge, and thinking about, what can I learn from this? What are the questions I need to ask to understand it or this person better? And from there, I believe is where that learning comes from, that helps you either do better the next time when you're faced with that same challenge, or to be able to pull back on that knowledge as you grow through life in your career.
Oh, I like that. Great responses. I've become such a supporter of curiosity, of nurturing and encouraging, as you said, encouraging curiosity, because that's where the real growth does come from. And, like you said, bouncing back from, the unexpected things, the things that don't go like we want them to. If everything were to go exactly like we wanted, there's very little growth opportunity there.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, question number four is such an important topic in today's world, and that's emotional and mental wellness. Leaders can often be in stressful situations, whether it's dealing with a project or whether it's dealing with the people, either way or both.
Yeah.
What can leaders do to manage their emotional wellness better? What tips do you have?
Mhm. Well, I think first it comes with prioritizing emotional wellness. It has to be up there with your top three other elements that you're focused on. So whether it's your drive for success or the results that you're looking to have for your business or how you're looking to grow and foster a team, I think making sure that the leader prioritizes their own self is critically important kind of at the get-go. And then in terms of how to like some of the tactics that support that emotional wellness, I think there are so many options out there. It's really up to each individual to figure out right what works for them. For some, it's having a coach themselves that they're talking to and being able to talk through challenging problems that they are facing with the work that they do. It could be things that are more internally focused, whether that's meditation or journaling that helps get those thoughts kind of out and emotions potentially worked through in more of a individual and private space. Could be exercise, and that's what really motivates someone. And yes, there's all those benefits of the blood flowing and it goes to the brain, and that helps us think and breathe better, but it also helps with that health piece. For me personally, one of the things that I started, I guess, almost a year ago now is a gratitude practice. And each night as I'm going to bed, the last thing that I'll do is just have a small little journal and I'll write down everything I'm thankful for that has happened that day. And it can be the smallest thing, just in terms of I caught all the green lights going from here to the dentist when I was running late, and whew, I made it on time. And much more meaningful things, obviously,
Yeah,
the people
sure.
around me and health in general. So that's something that I have taken and have really found that to be positive for me. And prioritizing sleep, I guess that's one for me as well. Listening to a sleep story or some type of sleep meditation at the very beginning, almost consistently now, that has me asleep within 20 minutes, I think. It's not as fast as my husband, who I hear snoring within 5 minutes, but I think having that routine and rhythm is what helps me in terms of having that, emotional wellness.
Wow, there's so many great tips in there, Lilith. Thank you for sharing them. There's a bunch there that we could go on for hours and talk about, whether it's
Sure.
having gratitude, whether it's getting good rest, whether it's exercise, blood flow. All of those are such great ideas. So I hope that all of you who are watching or listening, that you'll grab one or two of those that she's talking about and try to do a little bit more with those, because that will help. that mental wellness and that emotional well-being. So in the interest of emotional well-being from a fun state of mind here, let's ask this last question. What's a baseball story that you'd like to share with the audience?
So for me, when I was about 10, my family relocated from Miami to Richmond, Virginia. And at that time, the Richmond Braves were the AAA baseball team there. So the league right below the major leagues in Atlanta. And we went to a ton of baseball games. And this was not something I did when we lived in Miami. So I really got into the game of baseball, and I would actually track the balls and the strikes and everything during the course of the game. And I guess it's just sort of that general experience going with my parents and being able to sit, right there in the ballpark. And the AAA parks are certainly a lot smaller than the major league ones, but then being able to see some of those same players when they went on to Atlanta and were having amazing careers. It's like, oh, we knew them first. And so it was just, it gave me, a sense of pride. And maybe that was one of my first connections to like supporting a team and understanding the game and really being part of it. I really wanted to be a Batgirl for the longest time, but I guess eventually as I grew up and other things at school, became a little more interesting and compelling to me. But I wanted that job when I was in middle school, I guess.
Hey, I still want that job. I'm an old guy and I still want to go be a bat boy or whatever, And so,
That's exactly
oh,
right.
that's great. I love that, Lilith. Thank you for sharing that. That's a fun experience, and I love hearing about how you have engaged with the sport and all of those fun things. So thank you, and thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. How can people find you?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah. So, people probably the best way to reach me is certainly on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. You can also reach me directly through my website, which is human-genuity.com. And my email is lilith at human-genuity.com. So, look forward to being in touch with folks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you who are joining us. Don't forget to subscribe so you can follow us every week when we release these new podcast episodes to help you become a more engaging leader of a team. Thanks so much for joining us and have a great day. This is Shawn Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. Be sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And for more leadership tips, pick up your copy of Rapid Fire Leadership by going to rapidfireleadership.com, where you can also download free resources to help you in your leadership role. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.